my name's Leslie Romero. The AASL standard I decided to focus on today says that learners should work on adopting a discerning stance towards point of view and opinion expressed in informational resources and products. So our learning objective today is to learn how to properly evaluate resources. I think this is an important skill academically. Anytime you get a research assignment, you need to know this skill, but also just going throughout your day-to-day life, this is important to use all of the time, whether you're reading a research paper or a social media post. It's a good skill to know. It's important to consider those points of views and opinions of whoever produced the text. So that's why I chose this topic. When you're looking at my Padlet, you'll see several columns. On the left, you'll find this video. Next to that, we have our research question, our discussion question. So I would ask my students, how do we know this source is credible? How do we know it's worthwhile and factual and that we can trust the author? So that's what the goal is of this assignment that I've created. Next to that research question column, you'll see evaluating overview. That contains a brief video, a couple of infographics explaining generally what our goal is, how to properly evaluate information, websites, and again, what the goal is when we say evaluating resources. Next to that, there are evaluating guidelines. These are a bit more detailed resources, but I've tried to make sure they're not extremely long, so they're both digestible little guidelines. It's mainly a list of questions you'll want to keep in mind as you're looking at your resource. Questions you want to ask yourself in order to determine whether or not it's credible. And a lot of those have to do with the author, their point of view, any biases they might express. After that, we have primary and secondary resources. This is important to know because we want to know what type of resource we're looking at. Oftentimes, teachers will have a requirement for a certain number of each. So we need to know what type of source we're looking at. And underneath primary and secondary, you'll find a brief guideline in order to determine what your resource is. Next to that, we have practice. I have a couple of links that we will look at together and decide, are these credible sources? Is this something that you would be allowed to use in a research project? So we would go through that together to practice some of these skills. After that, we have research tools. Going forward, we just want to keep in mind what our big picture is, what project we're working on. And then I also list a couple of mind mapping tools. I think this is important at this stage as you're gathering information so you can kind of branch out your ideas and determine where you want your project to head. So those are the columns you'll find on my Padlet. I think this is, again, an important skill to use in real life, in the real world, whether you're looking at a Twitter post, a research paper, the news in the morning, a magazine. It doesn't matter. You always want to keep these questions in mind to determine whether or not this is trustworthy information that you want to accept as truthful. So that's my project today. And of course, let me know if you have any questions.